What is up, everybody? Welcome to Game Theory, a show here on the Monk Maddox channel where we deep dive all the DraftKings data. I am your host, Monk, aka Monk Master Flex, aka the Monkmatician. Good to see you here with me. Let's get right into it. The purpose of this show is to just cover all the DraftKings data, and by all I mean the important stuff. At any point, there are a lot of numbers up here. At any point in the video, feel free to pause it. Check out everything I got here. I'm just going to kind of go through the ones that stick out to me. So first fight of the night for UFC 34, Cannonier versus Gastelum. That's going to be Ramiz Brahimaj against Sasha Paletnikov, welterweight fight. Let's see, I'm capping this fight 28% Ramiz, 72% Paletnikov. It did open at a pick'em, and Ramiz is the slight favorite at this point. Ramiz DraftKings scoring data. His salary is 8,500. Sasha Paletnikov 7,700. Raw DraftKings points per minute. That is your DraftKings points per minute, without bonus points included. So just based on your metrics, strikes, takedowns, knockdowns, etc. Let's see here. So Ramiz 1.54 DraftKings points per minute. That is pretty low. 64th out of 67 in the welterweight division. On the other side, Sasha Paletnikov, 4.3 raw DraftKings points per minute. That is good for 7th in the division. So, the much more prolific scorer between the two. Sasha has 2 fights, 1 win, 1 loss. In his win, he did get 100. He did score quite a few points, 112.88. Let's see. In his loss, where is it? If I could read my own stuff. Oh, right next to it. He did score 10.5 points in his loss. Raw opponent DraftKings points, Ramiz gives up 2.67, so that is a little below average for the division. That's 77 points he did give up in his loss. Sasha gives up way more than that, 4.47 points per minute. His opponent did score 92 points in his loss. Average salary 7,700, 6,800. So both of these guys are above their average salary for the division. Sasha has a much better value at 9.07. Pretty good. Our ceilings 96.7 for Ramiz. I do have, the 112.88. We only have 1 win for Sasha, so obviously that is his ceiling. I don't have enough data for the standard deviation to calculate that, so we just use his 1 win total as the ceiling. You can take a quick look here, scoring by method and win-loss data. Not too much to look at, as we already talked about the scores here pretty much. Ramiz scored 18.59 points in his loss, where he did get knocked out or TKO'd. Sasha has a TKO win, 112, and he scored, as we said, 10 points in his sub-loss. Scoring percentages and consistency. 100% of Sasha's wins, his 1 win, has been over 110 points. So I just kind of break this down. How many wins over 90? How many wins over 100? How many wins over 110? That's really where you want to be to make the optimal lineup, is high 90s, 100s, 110, depending on the card, depending on how the card goes. And then right under that, your opponent's wins. How many times have you given up over 90 points? How many times have you given up over 100, etc. So Ramiz held his opponent, to 77. And then Sasha did give up, the 92 points there. So that's kind of how we're going to read that. And that will be more interesting when we have more fight data to look at. Let's see here. Offensive striking, total DraftKings points, 97.9% of all the points Ramiz scored in his fights have been from striking in his 1 fight. He's a grappler, guys. He's a grappler. He did not go for any takedowns, I don't think, in his first fight. So we'll see how that goes, what that strategy looks like against Sasha Paletnikov. On the other side, 83.97% of the points Sasha has scored on offense have come from striking. And then your offensive and defensive scoring percentages there. Good way to see how our guys kind of score their points. Then we do have some basic fight finishing data. This is pulled directly from my spreadsheet when I do the stat for my Do You Want More series. So we're not going to really go into that. Some actual stats here. We're going to kind of skip those as well. Raw DraftKings point differential, -1. So Ramiz gets outscored by over a point per minute. And Sasha pretty even there. But does get outscored by 0.17 points per minute. ass whooping index, strength of schedule here. And on the right, I don't really pay attention to this on my Do You Want More show, but here we can certainly talk about it. All the DK history from each of the UFC fights in the past. So what their salaries were, what their total points were, what their value ended up being. Sasha with a 16.36 value, fantastic value against Luis Kosuke last year. So we'll kind of be going through that as well. And then lastly, or not lastly, we'll get into the graph here, raw DraftKings points per minute. If you, again, it's pulled straight from my other spreadsheet. So loving these graphs here. The solid blue line is our fighter. Solid orange line is our fighter's opponent. Our dashed blue line is our fighter's trend line. Dashed orange is opponent's trend line. And then solid green, our fighter's average in the raw DraftKings points per minute category. And the solid yellow is their opponent's average. So you want the blue above the orange. You want the dashed blue to be trending up. And you want your solid green above the solid yellow. So we're not quite there with Ramirez. He did get outscored. Same with Sasha Plitnikov. Did barely get outscored in points per minute in his 2 fights against Impa Kasanganay and Louis Kosuke. I don't know which one. But they both have been trending up. Well, I guess Ramirez only has 1 fight, but Sasha was trending up there. So looking pretty good. And then lastly, before we move on to the next fighter, our projections, the stuff everybody wants to see. These are my projections that I generate personally. So a couple of them lately have been pretty close. Whoops, this is wrong. A couple of them have been pretty close lately. I am kind of tweaking it every week and trying to get it, much more accurate. So you guys can kind of take a look at that. I'm not really going to go into read off all the numbers. You can just look at it. The smaller numbers under the score is the projected value for that finish. So decision wins, decision losses, and as I kind of already messed up, this black square is for 5-round fights. So when there's only 3-round fights, we're not going to be seeing that. All right, guys, let's move it along. Next fight, Ignacio Bahamondes against Roosevelt Roberts. 0-1 in the UFC for Bahamondes. 4-2, 1 no contest for Roosevelt Roberts. I capped this fight 40% Ignacio, 60% Roosevelt. 7,800 is Bahamondes' current salary. 8,400 for Roberts. Raw DraftKings points per minute, 3.2 for Ignacio. That's good for 31 out of 67. And let's see, Roosevelt Roberts is significantly lower, almost a point lower than that. 2.36 per minute, 56 out of 67. He does average only 83.41 DraftKings points in his wins. So that's, 45th in the division there. So pretty low. Gives up 2.71, so he is getting outscored per minute at negative 0.35 points per minute. That is 48th in the division. Bahamondes not much better in his UFC debut, giving up 3.61 to his opponent. That's a differential of negative 0.41. Good for 52nd in the division. His opponent did only score 84.19 points in that fight. Let's go on to the scoring method. I should say average value 5.79 for Roberts, 5.4 for Bahamondes in their last fight. DraftKings points per sub win for Roosevelt, almost 100. Decision wins pretty low there, 68 points in decision wins. That's it. So he's only scoring, 38 raw points during the fight. So that is pretty low there. Nothing much to show for Bahamondes. No wins there. Kept it under 90. 50% of Roosevelt's wins. He did score over 90, but he's never hit 100. And his opponents have never hit 100 either. He is pretty consistent. We didn't hit ceiling. We didn't touch on the ceiling. 96.73 for Bahamondes. 103.23 ceiling for Roosevelt Roberts there. We'll go to the graphs here. 95.38% of Ignacio's points offensively have come from striking in his last fight. And he's given up all striking points as well. Only less than 1% of his opponent's striking points have come from grappling. Roosevelt Robert, a bit more even. 60% of his have come from striking, 61, while only 54% of he's given up striking-wise. Fight finishing data, you can take a quick look at that. Not really going to touch on it in this show. Last 5 fight history. Strength of schedule, not great for either one. Sub 70. 5.4 for Bahamondes' last fight. Roosevelt Roberts. Let's see here. Got his ass whooped by Kevin Crew. Ouch, ouch. His highest value in his last 5 was against Brock Weaver, who he subbed in the second round with a 10 value. So he almost hit 100 there. But as I said, he's never quite gone over that. Raw DraftKings points. Not a great graph from Bahamondes. I mean, he's only had 1 fight, so what are you going to do about that? Let's see here. Roosevelt Roberts, pretty consistent for him. My goodness, that is almost a straight line, straight across. Meanwhile, his opponents have been trending up. Actually, it's just Kevin Crew whooped his ass, so we'll see if that kind of comes back down to earth. Projections here. Do have Bahamondes with the higher projections all around. All right. There's that one. Next, Fabio Cherant taking on William Nightmare Knight. Fabio, the Water Buffalo Cherant. Fantastic nickname. Absolutely love it. Light heavyweight fight here. Gonna take a look at the numbers. I'm capping it 18.2% for Fabio. 81.7% for William Knight. So, little sneak. I do have a funny feeling that this is kind of like the Menefield fight when he Menefield Herman. So I'm pretty sure this is going to go the distance, but who knows? Current salary $6,800 for Cherant. He is the lowest salaried fighter on the card, and opposite him, William Knight, the highest salaried fighter on the card at $9,400. Raw DraftKings points per minute. Fabio Cherant is at a 0. Yes, he has had a fight. No, he did not even throw 1 strike. He has a 0 points there, so this should be pretty quick. William Knight, 2.25 DraftKings points per minute, 30th at a 36th, pretty low. He only has scored 86 points in his 1 win, and he gave up 3.73 points per minute, got outpointed by 1.5 points there. So towards the bottom of the division, and Fabio is pulling up at 36 there. Got outstruck by almost 7 DraftKings points per minute in his fight, giving up almost 100. As we said, William Knight, 86 points in his decision win, 11 points in his decision loss. When he did lose, his opponent scored almost 112 points in that decision. So that just interesting there. He gave up a shitload of points in a decision. No wins over 90 for either one of them. Both guys have given up fights over 90 points, and like we said, William Knight over 110 there, so not a good look. And all these are erroring out because he literally has no points. Defensively on Fabio Cherant, 85% of his opponent's points came from grappling. William Knight offensively, 55% of his points came from grappling, while giving up 68% grappling points there. Fight finishing data, not much to look at, but you guys can take a look. Last 5 fight history. Negative 123 ass whooping index for Fabio Cherant. Both strength of schedules are pretty terrible. Again, under 70. 0 value for Fabio Cherant in his last fight. William Knight's kind of gone both ways here. Huge value, 11.34, but only 86 points there, so not great. And then just over or just under 1.5 value at 11 points against Daun Jung. DraftKings points graph per minute. Take a look at that there. Not too many fights for either one, so it's not going to tell us too much. And then our projections. Very low projections, as you might imagine, from Fabio Cherant, just because we have no data for him. So take a look at that there. Man, if you're doing shots every time I say take a look at that there, be fucking wasted by now. We'll try to find a different catchphrase. All right, guys, let's move on to the 4th fight of the night. My most exciting fight I'm looking most forward to, I should say. JK. Bia Malecki against Josiane Nunez. Women's bantamweight fight. Bia Malecki 4-0. 2-0 in the UFC. And this is Nunez's first fight in the UFC. So all these are going to be zeros. She has fought since 44,000 days ago. It's just error from zeros. I'm capping this fight 71% Malecki, 9% Nunes. Malecki, 8,600 salary. She scores 3.73 DraftKings points per minute and gets 3.5 points scored on her for a positive differential of 0.19 raw DraftKings points per minute. She averages 91 points per win. Her average value, 12.82. So that is good for second in the division. Very good. Her average salary, 7,100. So she's way above her average salary there with a 100 ceiling. So you got to love to see that, especially in a women's fight. Nunes has no data, so we're not even going to look over there. Bea Malecki, 81 points in a sub win, over 100 in her decision win. So very good. Lots of high output there. Do like to see that. Half of her wins been over 100. No losses. Offensive scoring percent, just under 10% of the points from Bea Malecki have come from grappling, 90% striking. Her opponent, 74% of their points came from striking, 25% grappling. Fight finishing data, finished one of her fights, submission. I believe that was the Duda Santana fight. Barn burner, that one. Check it out. And her strength of schedule is absolute trash. Nunes is even worse. My God. Almost less than 40. Whoo! 100 points against Veronica Macedo. Macedo? What is wrong with me? Sorry, Dan. Veronica Macedo. 14 value. So very good there. And 81 points against Duda Santana. So less points than you'd like to see in a submission win, but not much happened there. As you can see, she had a negative ass whoop index, and she won the fight in the second round. So, got outstruck all over the place, got out controlled all over the place. Anyways, that's a different show. Raw DraftKings points per minute, trending up. Her line's above her opponent's line. Can't ask for much more than that. Decision win projection, only 70 for Bea Malecki. So, pretty low. Does have a decently high finish projection, but, I kind of see this fight going towards decision. So 70 points is not going to get it done there, but what do I know? Let's see. Brian Kelleher, let's keep it moving against Domingo Pilarte. This is going to be a bantamweight fight. Brian Kelleher moving down. Kelleher 6-5 in the UFC. Pilarte 0-1. I'm capping this fight 59.5% for Kelleher, 40.5% for Pilarte. Kelleher is 9,000 salary, fourth highest. Averages 2.77 DraftKings points per minute. That's good for 37 out of 69 people. Fighters, while giving up 3.57 DraftKings points per minute. So he is getting outscored by 0.8 DraftKings points per minute. Average value 8.23. Average salary 7,600. So he's way above his salary right now at 9,000. Does have the fifth highest ceiling rank on this card though, 111.49. So that is a great number. You like to see that. Domingo Pilarte, salary 7,200. Raw DraftKings points 2.72 per minute, so a few less than Kelleher. 3.69, so he's getting hit, or he's getting outscored more than Kelleher as well, for almost a -1 raw DraftKings points differential. Kelleher, I failed to mention, over 100 points per win. Look at that. You love to see that here. 100 points per win, 101.43. Pilarte 0-1 in the UFC. Well, 0-2 technically, but, whatever. We're not going to get into the marijuana laws or the ones that existed back then. Let's see. Brian Kelleher gives up 95, almost 96 points when he loses. Pilarte average 95. 2.41 value. Average salary 8,800, so he is way down from his average salary with a 95 ceiling. We do have some more data here for Brian Kelleher. When he gets a TKO win, 102.63 points. When he gets a sub win, 104.18 points. And when he gets a decision win, 90.78 points. So not too terrible there. Not too terrible. I like the decision. You expect the finish wins to be over 100. You want to see those triple digits. The decision win, the higher the decision win number, I like to see that. He's 13th out of 69 in the division there. When he loses, he does score the third most points, 28, but we're not really, interested in that. When he gets knocked out, he gives up 110. When he gets subbed, he gives up 93. And pretty close when he loses a decision, 90 points there. 100% of Kelleher's wins have scored over 90, Half of his wins have scored over 100, and a third of his wins he has scored over 110. So pretty prolific scorer there as far as I'm concerned. Opponents he gives up when he loses, he gives up over 90 and 80% of his fights, over 120% and over 110 in that same 20%. Scoring percentages, he scores, let's see, 75% of his offensive points he scores by striking, while Pilarte, 61% of the offensive points he scores comes from grappling. There we go. This isn't, yeah, fight finishing data. A few different finishes there for Kelleher, if you want to take a look at that. Terrible strength of schedule for Pilarte. Decent strength of schedule for Kelleher. Look at his losses here. 9 points, 30 points, so not too bad. 115 in his wins, 93 in his loss, or in another win, 105 in another win. Really good value there. Oh, I don't have a salary for Ray Rodriguez, but I assume that value is fantastic. So over 13 value there. I'm definitely going to be looking at Kelleher. What was his 9,000? So might be one of the higher owned guys for me. You know, on the 9,000 side of things. Raw DraftKings points per minute. This is kind of an issue, however. Right when I start talking about how good he is, look at that fall off. Trending down, way down. Opponents trending up. Orange way above the blue. Not what you want to see. And then our average is way below our opponent's average. Pilarte, only 2 fights. So he's barely trending up. His opponent's trending up at a much higher rate. And the average is not where you want it. Projections. We do have Pilarte out with the higher projections here. But is he going to actually achieve those? I don't know. I'm leaning pretty hard Kelleher here. I do like him a lot, especially with that high DraftKings average in his wins and in his decisions. All right, next fight, Austin Lingo against Luis Saldana. Saldana. Featherweight fight. Lingo's 1-1 in the UFC. Luis is 1-0 in the UFC. I'm capping this fight 55% Lingo, 45% Saldana. Lingo, 7,900 salary. Raw DraftKings points 2.53, 50 out of 69. 3.11 is what he gives up, 47th out of 69 there, so giving him a negative 0.58 raw DraftKings points per minute differential. Not great, 52 out of 69 in the featherweight division. He does score average 92.8, or he did score 92.84 points in his one win. He gave up 87.94 points in his loss. Average salary, 8,900. Average value, 5.92. So he's about 1,000 under his average salary. With a 92.84 ceiling. Luis Saldana, 1.62 raw DraftKings points per minute. That is dead last in the division. Gives up 3.38 for negative 1.76 raw DraftKings points differential. That is 65 out of 69. He did score only 54 points in his win. So that is his ceiling for the moment. He did that at 8,600 salary, which gave him a 6.32 value. No bueno. Scoring by method. As we said, Austin Lingo scored 92 points in his decision, while Saldana 54 points in his decision. So not very high score at all there. Kind of skip that. Offensive scoring percentages, 74% of the offensive points Lingo scored came from striking, while 62% for Saldana came from striking. He did have 71% of the points scored against him, however, came from grappling. And also Austin Lingo got more points scored on him through grappling than striking. So that is kind of interesting there for both guys. Fight history, strength of schedule is garbage for Saldana. Pretty poor for Lingo, but better than Saldana. Did fight Jacob Kilburn, Youssef Zalal there, 1-1 in his first 2 UFC fights. Over 10 value against Kilburn, and then the loss against Zalal. Here's the number that concerns me: 6.32 value for Saldana, only 54 points in his win. 36 significant strikes landed. That's it. In his fight against Jordan Griffin, got taken down 4 times, got 42% control time against. did not look good there. In fact, I think this, now that I think about it, I don't remember which one of these guys was Dana White Contender Series. Whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm sure I logged it because it was the only fight I had. Decent graph here from Lingo, but his opponent is also trending up. Not as bad as Saldana. Definitely given the graph side of things to Lingo. Here are my projections. They're pretty low for Saldana just because we don't have a ton of data really for either of these guys, but there you have it. All right. 6 fights down, 6 to go. Unless Kevin Jones has a different opponent since I've been talking. We'll see. Alexander Pantoja against Brandon Royval. Flyweight fight. Pantoja 7-3 in the UFC. Royval 2-1. I'm capping this fight 52% Pantoja, 48% Royval, 100% fun. I think this is going to be a super good fight. Pantoja 8,900 salary. Just over 3 DraftKings points per minute. 13th out of 29 in the division. Does get just under 3 points scored on him. Gives him a differential of 0.06. 91.23 points per win. So pretty good number there. 12 out of 29. Not quite as high as you would want to see it, but a decent number. His opponents, when they win, average 87.2 points. He average salary 8,600. Average value 8.57. So we are just a bit above his average salary. And he has a ceiling of 116.13. That's the second highest ceiling on this card. Brandon Royval, 7,300 salary. He's got a 3.68 raw DraftKings points per minute value here at 6th out of 29. 4.95 points per minute he gives up, though. That is crazy high. He has a raw DraftKings points per minute differential of negative 1.27. That is almost dead last in the division. He does, in his 2 wins, he averages over 100 points per win, so you do love to see that. His opponents, however, 119 points I guess that was Brandon Moreno scoring there. So he does have a 110 ceiling, 6th highest on the card. Average value 9.39, average salary 7,500. So we are just under his average salary here. So that's not bad, actually. Kind of interesting. DraftKings points scored in a TKO win. For Pantoja, 115.72, huge number. 108 for subs, huge number. Only 64 in his decisions. So not really where you want to be there. His opponents really don't score well against him either. And Brandon Royval did score over 101 points in his submission win there. Percentages and consistency, 57.14% of Pantoja's wins have scored over 90. 42.86% have scored over 110. So very, very good scorer here. Royval, all of his wins have scored over 90, and then one of his wins did score over 110. Good scorer there. All one of his losses, he gave up 110 points. Pantoja, only a third of his losses he's given up over 100 points, never given up over 110. So defensively, he's not bad, and when he does win, odds are he's going to put up quite a few points. 72.97% of his points are scored on the striking side of things. For Royval, 76.58 have come from striking. 53% of his opponent's points have come from grappling. Fight finishing data, fight history. Strength of schedule is fantastic for Pantoja. Look at that. And pretty poor for Royval, less than 70. What do we got here? His best win in his last 5, Matt Schnell. Scored 121 points, 13.32 value. Wilson Hayes scored 110 points, 12.53 value. Really good wins there. Brandon Royval against Kai Kara France, 110.73 for a 15 value. Tim Elliott, he scored over 91 points. So a couple of good scores here. Pantoja, how can you keep that pace up? So he is trending down, but his average is still above his opponent's average. Royval trending up, not quite as high as his opponents, and hopefully we'll fix that Average DraftKings points there. Get some more. Get that green above the orange. Here are my decisions for Pantoja and Royval. Oh, sorry for the constant water breaks. I've recorded so much in the past 2 days. My fucking throat killing me. All right, some high numbers here. High projections. High projections. It's going to be a good fight to target no matter what, because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, just according to the stats, Pantoja should win. He's going to be the better striker. You know, he's going to kind of be better everywhere, actually. More experienced guy. But Brandon Royval is just a wild man in all the best kind of ways. I mean that as a compliment. You don't know what he's going to do. He's unpredictable. Anything could happen. So you're going to want to target this fight, in my opinion. Austin Hubbard going against Vince Pichel. This is going to be a lightweight fight. I'm capping this 50-50. I got this as a pick'em. This is the closest fight on the card for me to call. And DraftKings thinks so too. Austin Hubbard 8,000, Vince Pichel 8,200. Hubbard 2.6 raw DraftKings points per minute, very low for the division. Gives up just more, just above that, 2.66 per minute. Another raw DraftKings points per minute differential of 0.06 negative. That is 39 out of 68. He does average 93 points, almost 94 points in his wins. He gives up 92 points in his losses. 95 ceiling, so not a very high ceiling there. 17th on the card out of, I believe, 24 at this specific moment. Average salary just under 8,000, so he's right there. Average value 6.78. The other side, Pichel 8,200. Raw DraftKings points per minute, much more than Hubbard. 3.77. Gives up only 2.36 for a differential of 1.41. That's the 14th best in the lightweight division. 95 points in his wins. Gives up quite a few points when he loses, though. 126. Wow. That's only two losses, but still, that's quite a few points. 115 ceiling. That is the third highest ceiling I'm projecting. Average salary 9,500 or 7,500. Average value very high, decently high. 9.58. 17th in the division, and his current salary, like we said, just above his average at 8,200. All right. When Hubbard wins by KO TKO, he averages 93.4 points. Vince Pichel 107.66. Let's see. Decision wins 94.16 for Hubbard, so that's 9th out of 68. Vince Pichel not far behind that, 92.61. So both of these guys are pretty decent scores, it looks like. So maybe another fight to target here. I mean both guys, because you have no idea what's going to happen here. Opponent DraftKings points in a TKO or loss, a whopping 124.28. So when Vince has been finished, which has only been twice, giving up a lot of points there. Austin Hubbard, 100% of his wins he's scored over 90, but he's never scored 100. Vince, half of his wins he's scored over 90, half of his wins he's scored over 100, and 2 of his fights he has scored over 110. Both of his losses, he's given up over 110 points. So not a good look there. Scoring percentages offensively, Hubbard, 71.97% of his points have come from striking. Pichel, only 47.2% of his points have come from striking, if I could speak properly. Fight finishing data. We'll skip over that quick in case you did want to take a look at it. Fight history, last 5. Strength of schedule is pretty good. Decent. I'm not going to say pretty good. Decent for both guys. Over 70s for the most part. Hubbard beat Bush. 95. DraftKings points in that fight. 10.75 value. 11 value. Almost 12. Another 10.5 down here. Some decent values from these guys in their wins. Vince Pichel over a 12 from Roosevelt Roberts, but he only scored 89. Did score 107 against Damian Brown. And then DraftKings points here. Decent graph for Hubbard. He's barely trending up. Opponent trending up a bit higher than him, but his average is above his opponent's average. Pichel is trending down, but still has a better average. Do you like to see that? Projections for this fight a bit lower in the decisions. Well, I guess no. Well, yeah, compared to the last fight, but still pretty high. top 10 for Vince Pichel, decision win projection. So 108 first round finish projection for Hubbard there. I doubt that's going to happen though. Trevin Jones. This is going to be a quick one because who knows who he's fighting at this point. It is Akhramanov, Said Yokub. Trevin Jones, 1-0 in the UFC. Should be 2-0, but he popped for marijuana, so of course that had to get changed to a no contest. I don't have any value for odds here. I couldn't find any odds anywhere at this point. Trevin Jones, I'm assuming 8,800. Akhramanov, I'm assuming 7,400, because that was the Mana Martinez salary. But we're going to skip. I have no other data for Said over here. Trevin Jones, average 4.09 DraftKings points per minute. That is good for 11th in the bantamweight division, giving up 3.88 per minute for a differential of 0.21. That's good for 32 out of 62. He averages 90, or he did score 94.38 points in his DraftKings win. And since that one is a no contest, it's not even included in here, which it probably should be. I should probably change that. Average salary 7,100, average value 8.6. All right, keep it moving. Did score over 100 in that win, as we know. This one's going to be really quick. Sorry, Trevin Jones. I just don't have a lot of information here. Pretty bad strength of schedule, under 70 for Trevin Jones. Mario Batista, he did score well, 94.3 with a 13.29 value at a 7,100 salary. So that would explain why he is all the way at 8,800 in this fight. And then his DraftKings points graph. Average is above his opponent's average, and he is trending up higher than his opponent's. Gotta love it. Projections, not too high in the decision win projection, but some decent round 1 finish, round 2 finish projections there. Well, that was a quick one. Sorry, like I said, sorry, Trevin Jones. I just don't have too much information here. I don't even know what the odds. Parker Porter going against Chase Sherman, heavyweight fight. Parker Porter 1-1 in the UFC. Chase Sherman 3-6. I'm capping this fight 43%. I don't know why I just lost all my conditioning here. 43% for Porter, 57% for Sherman. 7,000 salary for Parker Porter, the third lowest on the card. Might have some value here though. If Sherman doesn't knock him out immediately. Porter averaging 4.26 DraftKings points per minute. That is good for 8th in the division. Gives up more than that though, 4.4 per minute for a difference of negative 0.14 DraftKings points per minute. In his win, he did score 106, so very good score. In his loss, his opponent scored 127. His average salary 78.50, average value 7.2. On the other side, Chase Sherman, 9,200 salary, third highest. Averages 2.82 raw DraftKings points per minute. Gives up more than that, 2.94 DraftKings points per minute for a differential of 0.12 negative. So just slightly better than Parker Porter there. He averages 99.7 points in his wins. So that's good for 19th out of 43rd in the division. His opponents average less than that in his losses at 89. And his ceiling is going to be 119.62. That is the highest ceiling that I project on the card. So pretty decent little GPP play there, maybe 9,200. I don't know about all that. A decent percentage anyway, for sure. That's a big ceiling. Average salary just over 8,000. Average value 6.11. Let's see. We'll focus on Chase Sherman here. As we said, Parker Porter in his decision, 106 points. That was a decision win, so very good. 112 points for Chase Sherman, average when he TKO wins. Decisions very low, 74.96. It's good for 13th out of 43rd. Is that right? Yeah, I guess so. Not a lot of decisions in the heavyweight division, I guess, eh? Let's see here. Keep it moving. 100%, but only one fight. Chase Sherman, 2/3 of his wins over 90 points, 2/3 over 100, and 1/3 over 110 He's never given up over 110 points. His opponents, he's only given up 100 points one time. Striking percentages, 78.3% of all points scored for Parker Porter have come from striking, 97% for Chase Sherman. Defensive scoring percentage for Chase Sherman, 93.45% of the points scored against him have come from striking, 97.8% for Parker Porter. Fight finishing data. Fight history, last 5. Some pretty low ass whooping indexes there from heavyweights. And some pretty low strength of schedules, especially from Chase Sherman. Barely even touching 60 there. He's 1-4 in his last 5 in the UFC. His win over Ike Villanueva, he did score 100 points, 11.95 value. As we talked about, Parker Porter over Parisian, 106, 14.72 value. DraftKings points per minute. Chase Sherman is trending up. His opponent's trending down very quickly. And he's creeping that line ever so close to his opponent's line there. We'll see what happens after this fight. Parker Porter with the 2 fights pretty close. Chris Daukaus smashed him. And then he beat up on Josh Parisian a little bit. So pretty even as far as averages go. And decision win projections. Or projections, I should say. The 3rd and 4th highest win projections I have on the card by decision. And then finish wins, obviously, triple digits all across the board there. So possibly a good fight to target. According to me, it is. 2 fights left, guys. Clay, Guida. We are flying 40 minutes. All right. We'll have time to kind of look at the stuff afterwards. Excuse me. All right. Lightweight fight. Guida against Mark Madsen. 16-4 for Guida in the UFC, 2-0 for Madsen. I'm capping this fight 38% Guida, 62% Madsen. Guida 7,100 salary, 3.37 raw DraftKings points per minute. Gives up only 1.89 points per minute. So he's got a fantastic differential, 1.47 RDKP per minute. That is 13 out of 68. So very good DraftKings points differential there. He averages 94.86 points in his wins. And when he loses, he only gives up 85.62. Average salary, 78.29, so he's coming well in under his salary in this fight. 8.15 value, 108 ceiling. So decent value opportunity here for Clay Guida. I've seen a lot of people on him. He's only the 7,100 price point. A lot of hate. Not hate. I'm not going to use the word hate. Maybe I will. A lot of hate coming in on Madsen, not on his like personality or anything, but just as far as picks go. A lot of people are on Guida this week. A lot of people think Madsen's going to gas out, etc., etc. So that 108.94 ceiling number paired with the 7,100 price tag looks pretty good. Mark Madsen on the other side, 9,100, averages 4.76 raw DraftKings points per minute. That's 6th in the division. Only gives up 1.06 points per minute, also 6th in the division, for a huge 3.7 DraftKings points per minute differential, 5 out of 68. Average salary, $92.50, so he is coming in under his average salary here, surprisingly. Average value, 10.66. That's 7th in the lightweight division. He does average 98.58 points per win, no losses, 105.73 ceiling. So pretty good ceilings from both of these guys, but Mark Madsen kind of dominates all these numbers here. Scoring by method and win-loss data. Clay Guida, every box full. Gotta love to see this. So we'll talk about Mark Madsen first. Scored 105.73 points when he in his KO TKO win. Did score 91 points in his decision. Clay Guida, when he gets the knockout TKO, 108.74. When he gets the sub, 99.54. When he gets the decision, 94.10. So a very good score in his decisions. That's 11th in the division there. And I'm sure he has a lot of decisions just based on the number of fights he has. So that's very good consistency. 81 points in split decisions. Gives up, 85 points. That's it when he has been knocked out. Over 100 when he gets subbed. Only 72 in the decision losses. Consistency in scoring, 68.75% of Guida's wins. He has scored over 90. He scored over 131%, and he has scored over 110 points in 25% of his wins. In his losses, he's given up over 90 in half of them, over 121%, and over 110 in only 14%. Mark Madsen scored over 90 in both his fights, scored over 100 in one of his fights. Interesting here, offensive scoring percentages. Clay Guida, 51.98% of his total points scored have come from grappling, while 79% even for Mark Madsen have come from grappling. No points scored on Mark Madsen have been from grappling. And only 22.85% of the defensive scoring points on Guida have come from grappling. I've said grappling 14 times in the past 30 seconds. Fight finish data, graphs for that. 5-fight history. Strength of schedule is pretty bad for both of these guys. Less than 70. Guida's is worse. 2-0 Mark Madsen in his only 2 UFC fights. Let's see, 2-3 for Clay Guida in his last 5. His highest scoring fight in his last 5 did come against BJ Penn 2 years ago, and that was only 80 points, an 8.5 value. He scored another 80 points against Michael Johnson for a 10.8 value. Meanwhile, Mark Madsen, 91 points, not great, but pretty decent, over a 10 value for his 9,000 salary, and then 105.73 with an 11 value there in his ass whooping of Danilo Belluardo. The graphs here, Clay Guida trending up, his opponent barely trending up, and he is way over his opponent's average. Love to see it. Mark Madsen, love to see it here, creating big separation between him and his opponents. And our decision, or our projections here. Madsen with the 7th highest decision win projection. There we go. All right, guys. We are on to the main event of the evening. Jared Cannonier, Kelvin Gastelum middleweight fight. Cannonier 6-5 in the UFC. Gastelum 11-7-0. 1 no contest. Capping this fight 55% Cannonier, 45% Gastelum. Cannonier 8,700 salary, 2.21 raw DraftKings points per minute. That is pretty low. 49 out of 57. He gives up over an entire point more than that per minute at 3.24. Giving him a differential of negative 1.02 points per minute. That is 49 out of 57. Does average, however, 92 points in his wins. Not very high, 31 out of 57. Gives up more points than that when he loses, 93.13. Ceiling, however, 107.41. His average salary is $7,800, so he is $900 above that. Average value, 7.07. On the other side, Kelvin Gastelum, 7,500 salary. Raw DraftKings points 2.79. Raw DraftKings points scored against 2.68 per minute, giving him a positive differential of 0.11 raw DraftKings points per minute. That is 32 out of 57 in the lightweight or in the middleweight division. God, could you imagine if Kelvin Gastelum was a lightweight? 90.27 DraftKings points per win. 90.83 is what he gives up in his losses, and he does have an even higher ceiling than Cannonier at 109.09. He does come in $600 below his average salary. That's $800. What am I talking about? $82.90, and his average value better than Cannonier as well, 7.95. Cannonier in his TKO wins 97.6 points, and in his decisions only 64.07 DraftKings points scored. Not good at all. That is below average in the division. Kelvin Gastelum over 104.16 points scored in his KO TKO wins, over almost 112 points in his sub wins, and significantly more in his decision wins than Cannonier at 82.48. Good looking numbers there. Percentages and consistency. 2/3 of Cannonier's wins have scored over 90 points. 1/3 of his wins he scored over 100, and only 1 of 6 wins he has scored over 110. He gives up 90 points in 60% of his losses, 100 points in 40% of his losses, and he's never given up 110 points. Gastelum scores over 90, 45% of his wins, 36% of his wins he scores over 100, and he has scored over 110, 27% of his wins. So pretty good numbers there. That is 19th out of 57th. He gives up 90, 71% of his losses, gives up 142, almost 43% of his losses, and he gives up 110 in almost 43% of his losses. So Cannonier could possibly step up his scoring here. We will have to see. Total striking points, offensively, 92%, 92.5% of all points Cannonier has scored have been from striking, while only 71% for Gastelum. Fight finishing data. By fight history. Negative ass whooping index for Gastelum, 3.89 for Cannonier, and a huge power index, 2.31, 1.57 shin dex, also huge. And pretty good strength of schedules from both guys. Respectable, especially from Gastelum, over 80s in most of his stats here. Well over 75 for all these guys, so good on ya. And then our last 5 fights. Let's see, highest score. Let's see, Cannonier, his best one, according to DraftKings points, was over Anderson Silva. In 2019, he scored 107 points for a 12.33 value at 8,700 salary. Kelvin Gastelum's highest win in his last 5 was Ian Heinisch, 95.1 points for a 10.81 value at an 8,800 salary there. So, see if Kelvin Gastelum can turn his luck around. Raw DraftKings points. Cannonier is trending up while his opponents are trending down heavily, and he is creeping that average closer to his opponents here. On the other side, Gastelum trending up, well above his opponent's average, who's also trending up. But like I said, or no, actually, his average is below his opponent's, but he is trending up. Sorry, I read that wrong. Went colorblind for a second. And then upcoming fight projections. Here we go. And you might be like, what if it's like a 4-round finish? Or what if it happens in the 5th? Boom. There we go. So we got our 5-round projections here. Gastelum projected over 100 points if this goes to decision, and he wins over 100. Pretty good. Look at these good high projections here from Kelvin Gastelum compared to Cannonier, at least. Yeah, guys, that's gonna do it. Check it out. We did it. We got through all the DraftKings information. If there is anything else that you do want to know, as far as DraftKings stuff goes for this card, please let me know. Leave it in the comments. I do still need to work on that spreadsheet. I have been focusing more on my stat matchups compared to my DraftKings matchups, but I need to put in time on this specific spreadsheet here, this workbook, and just get all the kinks out. So if there's any more stats that you would like to see as far as DraftKings goes, let me know, please. I love creating stats. I'll add anything I can to this as long as it as long as it's good information and helps garner us some money. So again, guys, thanks a lot. If you want all the stats for this card, go check out my Do You Want More series. It is on a playlist. It is on YouTube. I put them out yesterday. And stay tuned for later in the week, possibly tomorrow, I'm going to do a pick show and kind of picks and what bets I have going for this week. So I'm going to put it all out there. I'm not obviously not charging for anything. I'm just a rookie in this game. So please leave a like, leave a sub, share this with your pals, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Peace.